The restaurant fell silent the moment she stepped inside. Not because she was loud. Not because she caused trouble. But because of the way people looked at her. The lunchtime crowd filled every table, sunlight pouring through the large glass windows and casting warm golden reflections across polished floors. Families laughed over meals, business professionals checked their phones, and friends shared stories over coffee. Yet when the elderly woman slowly walked through the entrance, carrying a worn cloth bag and wearing faded clothes that had clearly seen many difficult years, conversations seemed to fade around her. Eyes followed her everywhere she went. Before we continue, if you believe that kindness and second chances can change someone's life, please take a moment to like this video, comment below, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to Heartline Stories for more emotional and inspiring stories. The woman's name was Maribel Hart. She was 73 years old, and life had not been gentle with her. Her gray hair was neatly tied back despite the wind outside having disturbed it during her long walk across town. Her shoes were old and worn at the edges, but carefully cleaned. Everything about her suggested someone who still held on to dignity even after losing almost everything. Maribel had not always lived this way. Many years earlier, she had been a respected elementary school teacher. Hundreds of children had passed through her classroom. She had spent decades encouraging young minds, helping struggling students believe in themselves, and staying after school to help anyone who needed support. But time changes everything. Her husband passed away unexpectedly. Medical expenses consumed their savings. Her only son moved across the country and gradually lost contact. One hardship followed another until she found herself living alone in a small apartment, surviving on a limited pension. That afternoon, she had entered the restaurant for a simple reason. It was her birthday. No one knew. No one had called. No cards had arrived. No family member had remembered. After spending the entire morning alone, she decided to use the little money she had saved to buy herself a warm meal. It would be the first birthday celebration she had experienced in years. But the moment she stepped inside, something painful happened. Every table appeared occupied. When she politely approached a few groups and asked whether the empty chairs nearby were available, people avoided eye contact. Some pretended not to hear. Others shook their heads despite obvious vacant seats. One woman quietly pulled an empty chair closer to her own table before Maribel could ask. The rejection wasn't loud. It was worse. It was silent. Each refusal reminded her how invisible she had become. She stood near the center of the restaurant, clutching her bag tighter, pretending she was still searching for a place while secretly fighting back tears. Around her, laughter continued. Plates clattered. Waiters rushed past. Yet she felt completely alone. Then something unexpected happened. Near the far corner sat a young man named Adrian Cole. 29 years old, dressed in a simple blue shirt, he had been eating lunch during a break from work. He noticed the woman almost immediately. While others looked away, he kept watching. He saw her hesitant smile. He saw the disappointment in her eyes. And he saw something else. Pain. The kind of pain that doesn't come from one bad day but from years of loneliness. Without hesitation, Adrian stood up. The restaurant continued buzzing with conversation as he walked across the room. Several customers glanced at him curiously. Maribel assumed he was simply heading toward the exit. Instead, he stopped beside her. Then he pulled out the empty chair at his table. And smiled. That single gesture changed everything. Maribel looked surprised. For a moment, she seemed unsure whether he was truly inviting her. When she realized he was, emotion flooded her face. She nodded gratefully and slowly followed him. The restaurant had dozens of people inside, yet only one person had chosen to make room for her. As she sat down, sunlight streamed through the nearby window, illuminating her tired face. Adrian introduced himself and began speaking with genuine warmth. At first, Maribel answered cautiously. Years of disappointment had taught her not to expect much from strangers. But kindness has a way of opening doors that loneliness keeps locked. Minute by minute, she began sharing pieces of her story. She talked about teaching children for nearly 40 years. She talked about her husband. She talked about the students she still remembered decades later. And eventually, she admitted that it was her birthday. Adrian nearly dropped his fork. He looked around the restaurant, then back at Maribel. The thought of someone spending their birthday completely alone broke his heart. Meanwhile, a nearby waitress named Naomi had overheard part of their conversation. She quietly shared the information with other staff members. Soon, something remarkable began unfolding behind the scenes. The kitchen staff prepared a small dessert. The manager arranged a candle. Several employees gathered near the counter. Maribel remained unaware. She was too busy enjoying what she hadn't experienced in a very long time, genuine human connection. For the first time that day, she laughed. For the first time in years, someone listened to her stories as though they mattered. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen. Then the restaurant lights dimmed slightly. Heads turned. The staff emerged carrying a small cake topped with a glowing candle. A birthday song filled the room. At first, Maribel looked confused. Then she realized it was for her. The entire restaurant watched. Some customers who had ignored her earlier lowered their eyes in embarrassment. Others began clapping. A few even stood. Tears rolled down Maribel's cheeks. Not because of the cake. Not because of the candle. But because someone cared enough to remember that she existed. What began as the loneliest birthday of her life was becoming one of the most meaningful. The manager approached and explained that the meal would be free. Several customers volunteered to contribute toward additional gifts. One family handed her a handwritten birthday card. Another customer offered flowers purchased from a nearby shop. The atmosphere had completely changed. One act of kindness had spread through the room like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. As the afternoon continued, more people introduced themselves. They listened to Maribel's stories and learned about the teacher who had dedicated her life to helping children. Many wondered how someone who had given so much could ever be forgotten. But perhaps the day was proof that goodness never truly disappears. Sometimes it simply waits for one brave person to bring it back into the light. Months later, Adrian and Maribel remained close friends. He visited regularly. Community members organized gatherings for local seniors. Several former students were eventually located through social media and reunited with their beloved teacher. The woman who once felt invisible slowly became surrounded by people again. And it all began because one man noticed what everyone else ignored. Before we reach the ending, if this story has touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Heartline Stories. Your support helps spread messages of kindness to people who may need them most today. Special request: comment below with the words "Everyone deserves a seat" if you believe no one should ever be left feeling invisible or alone. As the sun slowly lowered outside that restaurant window, Maribel looked around at the smiling faces surrounding her. Earlier that day, she had walked through the door expecting nothing more than a simple meal. Instead, she discovered something far more valuable. She discovered that kindness still exists. And sometimes, changing someone's entire world doesn't require money, power, or grand gestures. Sometimes all it takes is pulling out a chair and saying, without words, "You belong here too." That simple act transformed an ordinary afternoon into a memory that would stay with Maribel forever, a reminder that even in a crowded world, one compassionate heart can make someone feel seen, valued, and loved again.